Yeah. Give it a few minutes. It's the weekend. Give it a few minutes, see what's going on, what anybody's talking about. Haven't seen anybody do any live streams. So I figured I'd do it myself. One second here. There we go. A lot of things to unpack, folks. The latest I heard that some judge, I believe in Wisconsin, got arrested. Just caught wind of it. Don't know the details. All I got want to know is, okay, under what grounds was this judge arrested? Now, see, anybody could be arrested. I guess depending on who you are and how you're being arrested. And just a heads up, if people are going to watch the replay, I'm not here to tear anybody down. I'm not here to pick a side, and I'm not afraid of politics because you run from politics. Yeah, then your life and everybody else's is not going to change for the better. So the best thing to do is to talk about it because it controls our lives, every one of us. Now, you could think and pretend that it doesn't. Well, my life isn't any different. Yeah, just wait. It will. Sooner or later, you'll see it, smell it, taste it, or even lose everything you have. Running away from it, and just because somebody like me comes along, you know, lay the blame of everything that's happening to them on me. I'm like, no, you can't do that. How could I have affected your life when I'm here, not being paid for what I do on YT, not interested? I make a living with what I do here, driving my truck. I like to share the sights with those who love to join me. I appreciate it. Hope you enjoy the view. Uh, I'm still in Wyoming. Once I round that bluff over there, I'll be in Nebraska. I got to go to Lexington and pick up a load of chicken tits from Tyson Chicken. And I got two stops, one in Fort Worth and the other one down at near Katy, Houston. Katy is right next to Houston. It's the Costco I was at last week because I got a load out of there to take down Laredo. So I'm going to be cooking in my truck by the time I get down there because it's been over 100 degrees. It's been really warm down there. How you doing, Gordon? So we're going to find out the results of your election on Monday, right? And I tell you what, Darren has been working his butt off. Darren did a live stream last night for the first time in a couple weeks because Darren's been really busy because he's been working the election. I don't know exactly what he's doing, if he's one of the ones that hands out the ballots, or whatever. I'm not sure what he does, but he does a lot of stuff. But I joined YT in February and late February of 2020, like a lot of other people did when the lockdowns happened. And a lot of people got put out of work and they had nothing else to do. Well, we go on to YT. So that's why YouTube exploded. Oh, and I think it was like 3 or 4 days ago, I lost one of my one of my football idols from my favorite team, number 78, Steve Mongo McMichael. And he used to wrestle in WCW. He got the championship in WCW too. But I never took that part of his career seriously, just football. He's part of the 85 Bear defensive line. There was Steve Mongo McMichael, the refrigerator William Perry, Richard Dent, and Dan Hampton. Dan Hampton was number 99. Mongo was 76. Richard Dent was 75, and William Perry was 72. That is a defensive line you didn't want to have to look at. Because I'm a big man. And when I stood next to them, when I met them years ago in Olivet College down the street from my sister's house, they made me look small. Oh. The smallest of the four was Mongo, and me and Mongo are the same size. And I met him at his club. He had a bar and grill south of Chicago, between there and Kankakee, and he was in a wheelchair and he was deteriorating, and it was sad. But I was honored to meet him and get to talk to him, and I got to share my story with him. I said, back in the day when I played high school football, being a Bears fan, I'd say there's Dan Hampton, the refrigerator Perry, Richard Dent, and you, Mongo, and then there would be me. He laughed about that. He goes, "What happened?" I got a concussion in the state championship football game, and they pulled my scholarship. He goes, "You're shitting me." He goes, "No." He goes, "I heard of that." I said, "Yeah, I had a full ride scholarship to Clemson University. I was going to be a Tiger." Matter of fact, I think that's where the refig came from. Mongo, I believe, was a Texas Longhorn, and I can't remember the other two, what universities they went to. But he finally died of Lou Gehrig's disease, and I'm just glad to not see him suffer anymore. And I remember Ric Flair was an advocate to get him inducted in the WWE Hall of Fame. I don't know if that actually happened or not. Probably not, because there's been a bunch of people inducted in the Hall of Fame that had already passed on. Like the first one they ever inducted, Andre the Giant, he had already passed on when they started it. Andre was the first inductee, rightfully so. There we go. There's the Nebraska state line. But I could talk economics. I could talk the American tax code. You know, there is some channels that I won't talk bad about, but I don't necessarily agree 100%. And I've been trying to get their attention. And me, if they would like to have a talk and maybe a little debate about a certain issue, I would be more than happy to. And those that I reach out to, Midas Touch is one of them. Good channel, by the way. And I'm sure they get paid very well what they do. That's why there are certain things I don't agree with what they push. But a lot of it, I do. Tennessee Brando. He gives you what it is to be a redneck in a deep red state and not agree with them people. He's a very wise guy. Writes music. Wrote a great song called "Shut Up and Eat Your Eggs," which is hilarious. Um, Again, there same issue. He be put with the Midas touch. There's an issue I do not agree upon.
Sorry about that, guys. I don't.
Hear me or not? Oh, here we go. We got somebody in the background. There we go.
Yeah, you said Stan Hansen.
Can you hear
right?
me? Stan Hansen?
Yeah, for Chicago Bears.
No,
I thought you said
no, Steve Mongo. No, Steve Mongo McMichael.
You were listing his teammates like William Refrigerator Perry, Steve McMahon.
No, that McMahon, Vince, not Vince. What was his name? Jim McMahon was our quarterback. Yeah. But out of the 85 Bears, the ones that I centered my attention to is the four on the defensive line. Those were my guys.
Steve Mongo McMichael was a four horseman, and he was a United States champion.
Oh, I knew he was a champion. I didn't know that he was made one of the four horsemen. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was him, Brian Pillman, Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, and Chris Benoit and Dean Malenko.
Yeah, but the originals were Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, and I can't remember the other two. I think it was Barry Windham?
Arn, Ole Anderson, and Tully Blanchard.
Ric Flair, Tony Blanchard, Ole Anderson, and who else?
Arn.
Arn and Ole both were in. Okay.
Yeah, they were the original.
They were the original.
Yeah, it was Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard, Ric Flair, and Ole Anderson, and J.J. Dillon was their manager.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Then it became Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard, Sid Vicious, and Ric Flair. Or wait, was it Barry Windham first?
Yeah, it was at the Hall of Fame that Ric Flair made Dusty Rhodes four horsemen. It took him that long. Because Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair were always fighting each other.
Well, they had a good rivalry going on in the NWA.
Oh yeah. Well, back in the territory days, yes, it was really big back then.
Oh, and we're going to sweep the Ottawa Senators tonight, the Maple Leafs. NHL playoffs.
Yeah, I haven't been keeping up as of late. I'm taking a shit, man. My Chicago Cubs are whipping ass. I didn't expect that.
And where did he get the name Mongo from?
He got it in college. He got the name Mongo because he was big, and I think it was the.
Was it a cartoon character name?
No, it dealt with the Mongols. The way he played football, he fought like the Mongols. He was very badass. He kicked a lot of ass. And when he would party in college in the fraternity he was in, he would wear a hat that looks just like what the Mongols would wear while he would be drinking.
When he did commentary for WCW, he always brought his little Chihuahua with him.
He was nothing like that, what you'd see in wrestling. He was good at what he did. He just put the attitude like he was going into a football game towards the wrestling. And that's when the attitude came out.
He was a wrestling fan, I take it, because
he
wouldn't be in wrestling if he wasn't a fan.
I'm just surprised he didn't join Jimbo Covert and William Perry in WrestleMania 2. because it was open invitational, and we had 2 Chicago Bears in that battle royal. Andre ended up winning it, but it was in Chicago, and Perry and Jumping Jim Brozell from the Bears, and I'm like, "Where's Mongo?" I'm like, "Shit."
Jumping Jim Brunzell was not a bear.
Oh,
He was
Jimbo
a Killer
Covert.
Bee.
Sorry. Yeah, I know I got screwed up. But I believe they were in that Royal Rumble. The Killer Bees were.
Yeah, and
Yeah, Jimbo Covert.
and
Sorry about that.
and Big John Studd, and yeah, Big John Studd pulled Fridge over the top rope when he was eliminated.
Oh yeah. But the rivalry, and I would have done the same thing with my favorite. And he was played for the Atlanta Falcons.
Bill Goldberg.
Bill Fralick. He
I thought
played
you
for
were
the
gonna say
Atlanta
Bill
Falcons.
Goldberg.
No,
I thought you were gonna
Goldberg.
say Goldberg.
He didn't even exist back then. This is WrestleMania 2, and he started getting into it with
Goldberg
John
was
Studd.
Goldberg was probably playing high school ball at that time.
Maybe not. He might have been younger than that, but I like it. They did an interview together later on, and they talked about it. He goes, "I finally got to meet one of my favorite wrestlers, John Studd," and I actually really like John Studd. And they said, for the Battle Royale, let's have a beef, and they did, and it worked out really good.
Yeah. I watched a documentary last night on Big John Studd. He was not that bad of a person. Like, he was a good human being.
Oh yeah,
John Mitten is his real name.
yeah. John Studd and Jesse Ventura used to ride around in the cars together from place to place, and Jesse talk about him.
And Big John Studd served in the military too. He was a military police for the Marines, I think.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he went by his real name, John Mitten.
But the only beef that was real between him and Andre was pissed off. He said, "You don't go over the top rope. That's what I do." He goes, "You go under." And he would never listen to Andre. He would always go over the top rope.
Because
and it pissed
John
Andre
Studd
off.
was a 7-footer himself, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think he was just a little bit shorter than Andre.
But he was a giant.
But with me coming into the business, and with Andre, with who he is and his legendary status, I would have respected him like a Mahaj, which is.
But I don't think Andre was at that legend level when Studd came in.
He was just about there. Yeah, he was coming towards the end of his career back then.
He was popular, but I don't think it was legend level.
because Andre should have retired right after WrestleMania 3 because his back was bad.
He did. He only wrestled in WrestleMania 6, but as a tag team with Haku, and they lost the championship to Demolition.
Yeah. Shortly thereafter, his last match was in Japan. He was in bad shape, and that was his last match. You can find on YouTube.
He did an appearance for WCW Saturday night. Yeah, Andre was in WCW for a couple of nights, but not as a wrestler, but just an appearance, to interfere
Andre,
with us.
Yeah, Andre was everywhere. He didn't stay too long in a territory because
the longest
if you stay too long,
the longest he stayed wasn't. Yeah.
If you stay too long in a territory, you lose your heat. So he kept his heat up by going from territory to territory.
But the longest he stayed was in WWF, wasn't it?
Yes. Before he was in WWF, he was in AWA with Vern Gagne.
And before that, he was in Montreal Wrestling.
Yeah, AWA had the big majority talent that made WWF as big as it was because they had Andre, they had Hogan, they had Ventura.
And Studd. Big John Studd got a start in AWA, didn't he?
I don't think it was AWA, was it? I don't remember.
I think so. But yeah, like Hogan got his start in AWA until Vince Jr. started picking everything.
Yeah. And he was actually a heel originally. He wasn't the Hulk yet. I remember a lot of people claiming that that was the first time that Andre was body slammed in WrestleMania 3. I was like, bullshit.
Yeah.
The first person to do that was Kamala, the Ugandan headhunter.
You know what his first gimmick was?
Sugar Bear. He was out of Mississippi.
Yeah. Is it? He's from the same area as Junkyard Dog, wasn't he?
I think so.
Like they came up around the same. Like, didn't the Junkyard Dog come up with Sugar Bear in the territory?
I can't remember, but I do know this. Sugar Bear. Well, James Harris is his name. He's from the same area as a YouTuber that you probably might have met in a live stream named Shooting Star. We all call him Bruce.
Yeah.
They're from the same area. I think he didn't live but a few miles from James Harris because he's from Mississippi also.
You know who Wayne Ferris is, don't you?
Yeah, that's he was a part of Mid-South originally, and they had that was rated the first hardcore match, and it was known as the Tupelo concession stand brawl.
But Wayne Ferris is the honky tonk man.
Yeah, but that wasn't even a thought then when this happened. But that was deemed the first hardcore match. But it was after the match, and they ended up having a brawl in the concession stand. And I remember Jim Cornette talking about it. He goes, they let him go. They said, you can do what you want, just do not touch the popcorn machine. And if you notice, that's the only thing that didn't get touched in the concession stand.
Hey, say what you want to, like, for the people who are critics of Jim Cornette, say what you want about it. He's actually very knowledgeable when it comes to wrestling.
When it comes to a shoot ad-libbed off from the cuff, nobody can hang with him. He would destroy you. He's better than Paul Heyman. Jim Cornette, that's all he does. That's because since he was like 12 or 13, he was a photographer. Is how he got started. He's been around wrestling his whole life.
You're talking about Paul Heyman.
No, I'm talking about Jim Cornette.
Paul Heyman too. He was a photographer before.
But Heyman was a little older when he got started. Jim Cornette started at like 12 or 13 in Mid-South.
But kind of similar backgrounds. You know that famous picture of Vince McMahon Sr. and Andre the Giant?
No, not familiar with that.
That was a Paul Heyman picture.
But when it comes to talking, Heyman couldn't hold up to Jim Cornette. Jim Cornette would tear him apart.
But Paul Heyman has his qualities. Paul Heyman's knowledgeable when it comes to what the people want and what the people want to see.
Yeah. Well, here's what Heyman didn't do that Cornette did many a time in the territory days in Mid-South. He caused many a riot where it was amazing he made it out of the arena alive.
Well, he was a heel manager, for God's sake.
Yeah, I know. He caused many a riot. They were
Midnight Express.
Kill him.
Midnight Express. Yeah. They wanted to kill the Midnight Express, too. But, yeah, like, Jim Cornette, like, would Jim Cornette be like wrestling version of Don Cherry?
I don't understand.
You don't know who Don Cherry is, don't you?
No.
Hockey coach turned commentator?
No. Well, okay, now I know who you're talking about. Yeah, he was trying, back in the day, he was trying to make hockey like wrestling a little bit when it come to commentary, and he was good at it. But he
Yeah,
was starting to make it sound like it was getting to be like wrestling because when fights were going on, he really cheered it on. What pissed him off is when they started, fining these players and giving them suspensions for fighting.
Yeah, because he likes the goons.
Yes, he did.
He says without the goons, the superstars wouldn't be superstars.
Yes, but the owners and everything realized that
Head injuries.
the
head
fighting,
injury. Yeah.
the fighting puts butts in the seats.
But nowadays, the league is now saying head injuries are a pandemic, so we got to curb. the
Well,
fight.
yes, it is. It is because that's what killed a couple of the enforcers in the league. They were unable to test the other ones because they had long passed on. But like Bugard and Probert, they all had an extreme. What do they call that? CTE or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really bad. A lot of old football players had it too. It's from constantly taking blows to the head. Your boxers have that, end up with that too. Muhammad Ali had an advanced portion of it.
Well, he also had Parkinson's. Muhammad Ali also had Parkinson's.
But they're wanting to do that to curb that from happening. That's why in the NFL, you get if you hit somebody head first into the head, they call that targeting, and you get a 15-yard penalty with that.
No helmet-to-helmet strikes. It's only shoulder-to-shoulder.
Because I remember doing the helmet-to-helmet, and I tested, and I don't have it. But I remember hitting head-to-head with people playing high school football.
Well, you didn't do it. You didn't do it for too long.
No, but I was hitting head-to-head, and I know it's like a car accident out there. Yes, there were a few times I went head-to-head with somebody, especially when I got the concussion in the state championship game I was in. When I went head-to-head where I gave that kid a concussion. He was completely knocked out. I broke his helmet, cracked it.
So
and I remember I actually got knocked out for a brief second.
But he was knocked the fuck out. You were just knocked out.
Yeah, he was in a coma for 3 days. Me, my vision went blurry and I got violent. And the coach grabbed me and threw me to the ground and sat on me until the ambulance got there because I was getting violent. And I wanted to go back out there, and they knew I had a head injury. But that was a heated game. It was a very low-scoring game, but we lost by a field goal. The state championship in South Carolina. Lost against Hilton Head.
Well, South Carolina is a football state. Same with Texas.
But I'm serious. They were out there. Every hit, bam! You heard that plastic going, and it did. It sounded like a car accident out there.
Let me guess, you were really leaning it into him.
That's the only kid I ever really hurt. The broken leg of the quarterback was not just me because I had a hold of him first, taking him down. It was Pat Upson that came in and then the secondary, and he got tripped and then grabbed his legs, and that's what snapped his leg. Because as we're going down, we're about ready to hit the ground, and I'm getting screamed in the ear like a bitch. And as soon as I hit the ground, I jump right up and I look down and I'm pointing. They said, "You were acting just like LT." When he hit Theismann and he broke his leg. I'm like, well, the way that kid screamed, I knew he was hurt. I knew it wasn't me because that was a clean hit. He was trying to hold the ball.
Did you say LP or LT?
LT.
Lawrence Taylor.
Yes. He had Joe Theismann, broke his leg. A lot of people see that and go, "Oh."
Right. But that's when football was football. When I see a game today, it doesn't look as entertaining as it was back in the 80s and early 90s.
Yeah, they're trying to prevent head injuries.
They're trying to prevent injuries, period. Like you can't even sack anymore.
Oh yeah, you can. Just don't hit him in the head.
So you could spear him like Goldberg.
Yeah, right to the gut. Boom. They're going down. I prefer to do that because you have a chance of knocking the ball loose.
And it makes a more visually appealing hit look, doesn't it?
Yes. And you're less likely to get hurt because your body bends real easy from the hips.
But as you hit the ground, your head might hit the turf because it's still a cement underneath the turf, isn't it?
Yeah. No, not in all stadiums. Now, what can be dangerous hitting around the waist, if you hit them from the side, that could be a spinal injury right there.
Or injure a kidney. Kidney injuries hurt. But nowadays, can you still go low? Like, can you chop block? Or is that still illegal?
No. That's per personal foul. You can't do that.
Can't chop block?
If you can get away with it and the referee didn't see it.
Just like in hockey where you have the hip check, like depends on how low you go, like it turns into a tripping penalty.
Now that's a legal hit because you're not taking any more strides. If you take 2 strides and boom, you hit somebody, yeah, that's a boarding call.
But a hip check, there is a thing where you can't go too low or low and lift the person. You just have to let them go over your hips.
Uh-huh.
But there's players that skirt the system. Even Gordie Howe used to elbow, and the referees didn't catch it.
Well, back in the day, before they had 2 referees, you could get away with shit. Because I cheated a lot, too, when I played Little League hockey. When I was in defense, and I knew that the referee was behind me trying to skate up ice to get down there.
Yeah.
And he had almost a one-on-one with my goalie. You can lean into him. Once I leaned into him, I'd use my left hand and grab his stick, and he couldn't shoot. And I'd try to screw him up, and it works because
nowadays,
the referee didn't.
Be called holding the stick.
Well, the referee would be there to see it, but back then there was the only referee that would whistle you is behind you trying to get down ice. That's why you could get away with that shit back then.
But back then, didn't the linesmen also help the referee with some of the calls? Like, hey,
only if the referee asks. The linesman job is offsides. That was their only duty.
Offsides and icings.
Yep, and they handled the majority of the face-offs, except for the main one at the start of the period.
They handled the fights, like to break the players apart.
Yeah, well, then the referee would ask the linesman, "What did you see?" And they'd go with what they saw.
But I'm saying linesmen also break the fight apart when there's a fight. Like, okay, break it up. And they escort the player to the penalty box after the fight.
Yeah, my favorite goon of all time, and he was probably one of my favorite players. I wish he was a Blackhawk. Was Derek Boogaard, the boogeyman. I know if I played hockey with him, me and him would be real close friends because we had a lot in common.
Is he Canadian?
Yes, he grew up in Saskatchewan.
So he's probably from Montreal.
Yeah, he got drafted by the Minnesota Wild.
You mean North Stars?
Nope, the North Stars didn't exist then. They were in Dallas. The first time he got drafted was to the.
He's a younger player. I thought you meant like back in your day. Back in your day, with the Minnesota North Stars.
Well, yeah. I remember the North Stars. I was like 18 when the North Stars moved. But no, Boogaard, he played. He started with the Minnesota Wild, spent most of his career there. He ended his career as a New York Ranger. Anyway, when he played high school, there was a scout there from the Eugenia Pats, I think they're called. They're from your area.
Regina Pats.
Regina Pat. Okay, but what happened is there was a it was a high school game, and there was a disagreement, and he ends up jumping in by himself, jumping in the opposing team's bench and kicking the shit out of everybody. Now, the scout was there to look at some other player, but when he saw that, he went right to Bugard's parents and said, we'd like to sign him. And that's where he got his start. And he started getting the, I mean, there were times he wasn't winning every fight at the time because, he started competing against men.
He's probably sticking up for a teammate that got dirty hit.
Yeah. But one thing that was for certain, when he got into the NHL, you were getting your ass beat.
I thought he calmed down by the time he got in the NHL.
No. I remember one time he was fighting that guy from the LA Kings. He gave him an uppercut. It was out of your view because you saw the back of the LA King. I can't remember his name. He gave him an uppercut, and I saw the helmet come flying off. I thought the dude's head was still in the helmet. That's how hard he hit him. Knocked his ass out too.
Hey, Derek Bugard would have been a good fit for the '70s Philadelphia Flyers, the Broad Street Bullies.
Oh yeah. Man, I just wish he was a Blackhawk.
Hey, it wasn't in the cards.
Because I remember one time he's sitting on the bench and they haven't brought him into the game yet, and it was against the Ducks, and there was a disagreement, and some of the guys on the other bench was yelling over at him, and he stood up, and then he started smiling and yelling back at him, and he pointed over to the ice, and all of a sudden the crowd just started saying his name, Bugard, Bugard, Bugard. So the coach puts him in. As soon as he hit the ice, the crowd went nuts. And he shrugged his shoulders, and he's looking over at the bench.
Were they in Anaheim, or were they at home in Minnesota?
They were at home in Minnesota.
Yeah.
They didn't want none of that.
About the words we said to you, buddy. Yeah, we didn't mean it. Okay.
Now, I would have become friends with him, even if we may not have been teammates. I would have got with him and like, look, I know I can fight too, but I'm not going to hit you. But let's let it make it look good. I mean, I'll make it look like you knocked my ass out. Instead of hitting me with your fist, hit me with your forearm, and it's so quick it looked like you hit me with your fist, and I'll go down. Yeah, it sells tickets. We're both going to get the penalty. Doesn't matter who wins the fight.
So you would job for him?
We would make it look good, though.
So you would be the jobber.
Yeah, I would do that so we wouldn't get hurt. I mean, yeah, he could probably hurt me as well as I can hurt him, but I'd rather not. But let's make it look good, because the audience ain't gonna know.
Do you think half these fights are like that in the NHL? Like they're just for show?
Some of them are. Some of them are. So if you look at the end of the fight, one will lean in and say something to him. A lot of times that was like, that was good.
And the linesmen and the referees will go like this. Yeah, good show, boys. Get in the box.
Because you're trying to stay on your skates, but other than that, if you're wrestling around, you're flopping your arms around a bit, getting a swing or two in. You give it a minute or two, and then it just one of you falls to the ice. That's it.
Yeah.
Just make sure it looks good, and gets the audience into it, because that's what butts in the seats.
And that's what gives your team the momentum going through the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got him. Let's continue.
But a lot of the fights were real.
Of course. But the staged fights, people have a problem with the staged fights, especially the old school NHLers. Because it's not organic. It's staged.
All I know is if I lived in Edmonton back in 88, and I would have took the general manager and the owner and would have hung them downtown Edmonton. I think everybody would have joined in with me for dismantling that team. You imagine how many cups Edmonton would have won if they would have kept their players?
So you would have hung Glenn Sather?
Hell yeah, for getting rid of the team, dismantling the team. Like, what the hell are you doing?
Glenn Sather wanted to keep Gretzky. Glenn Sather said, I could tell Pocklington to stop it.
Like, give them the money. You had Gretzky, you had Paul Coffey, you had Messier. Jesus Christ, you had all the Hall of Famers in there.
Yari Curry.
You'd have the next
Grant
10
Fuhr.
to 15 years. You would have won all those cups in the next 10, 15 years. The majority of them would have went to Edmonton. You
But
couldn't
I
beat
think
that team.
Gretzky, I think Gretzky needed to go to Edmonton because his wife is from L.A.
Well, from there, he went to the Kings, I think, right?
Yeah, because his wife was in the soap operas back in the 80s and 90s. Janet
Oh, yeah.
Jones.
Let's put it this way. If we had a team like that for the Chicago Cubs, okay, for 2 years, and then they dismantled the team like that, oh, yeah, whoever the owner of the Cubs was is going to be dead. Just like in Cleveland, they wanted to kill Art Modell for moving the Browns overnight without saying a word to Baltimore and became the Ravens. Yeah, Art Modell was a dead man in Cleveland.
Maybe that's why I never see him in the press box when they went to Cleveland to play at a game.
He probably didn't go. But he didn't live but a couple of years, and he died a couple of years after moving the team.
So nature took its course.
Yeah. But the owner and the GM of the Edmonton Oilers in the late 80s, oh, yeah. I'd be like, we need to kill those bastards.
You're not killing Glenn Sather. Pocklington, yeah. Sather, no. Sather didn't want to dismantle the team. Pocklington, the owner, the boss, wanted to.
Yeah. I think it was Gretzky went to the Kings, Messier went to the Rangers, and Paul Coffey went to the Flyers.
No. Coffey went to the Penguins.
He went to the Penguins? I thought he
Yeah,
went
he
to
won
the Flyers.
He won 2 Stanley Cups with the Penguins with Mario Lemieux.
Huh.
And Yari Curry went to L.A. Messier stayed in Edmonton for one more season.
But he spent most of his career as a New York Ranger.
He played one season with the Vancouver Canucks.
That's right.
That failed.
There was one minor leaguer that played for the team that I played 2 games for in 2A minors, which was the East Coast Hockey League Dayton Bombers. There was one player before I got there named Darren Langdon. And he was popular, number 21. Mid-season, he gets called to Binghamton. Binghamton called him up. He played 2 games for Binghamton. And then New York, he got the attention of the Rangers. So the Rangers signed him. First game of the NHL, he's on ESPN for the first 2 nights. Why? Because he kicked the shit out of Eric Lindros' brother right there on TV.
Brett Lindros was for the Islanders.
Yeah, he kicked his ass. I mean, he became a fan favorite. Darren Langdon did. He played for the Rangers for a few years. Then he was a part of the first team of the Carolina Hurricanes. And then he went, he went to Vancouver and became a Canuck. Then he went to the Hurricanes when they won the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
And a year after that, he retired.
Yeah, he played with Rod Brindamore with the Carolina Hurricanes.
But Darren Langdon, man, he was a little guy, but he was a hell of an enforcer.
He would have been would he have been about Theron Fleury's size?
Now, he wasn't a very big guy. He was about the same size as Dome from Toronto.
Who?
Dome from
Ty
Toronto.
Domi. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't remember his first name.
Ty.
Well, I know he spent most of his career in Toronto, but where else did he come from?
He was drafted by the Maple Leafs, but traded to the Rangers.
Oh, he did go to the Rangers? I know he went somewhere else.
He played for a few seasons with the Rangers. He played 2 seasons with the Winnipeg Jets before they moved to Phoenix. Then he went to Toronto.
And he finished up there.
Yeah. His son now is with the Toronto Maple Leafs, Max Domi.
Really? Huh.
Yeah, they're in the playoff.
I know Darren's a Maple Leaf fan.
Yeah. Max Domi is number 11 for the Maple Leafs. Like
where was the
father,
Winter
like
Classic played this year?
the Winter Classic?
Yeah.
Boston.
Where'd they play it at?
They played it at Fenway.
They did play it at Fenway because the very first one was at Wrigley Field, and I watched it.
That was Chicago.
I wish I was there. It was at Wrigley Field. Red Wings against the Blackhawks.
Yeah. Then the Red Wings were home to the Maple Leafs during the Winter Classic. They were playing in the Michigan Stadium, like the Doghouse. Like the Wolverines Stadium.
Oh, they played in Ann Arbor then, because that's what it's in Ann Arbor.
Yeah,
which isn't far from Detroit.
It's Michigan, so
yeah, you could fit like 200,000 people in the stands.
Yeah, the Maple Leafs won that game.
And I remember watching the one that they did in Edmonton because they brought the 2 Winnipeg Jets and the Edmonton Oilers, the old teams. They brought them back, the seniors game. That was a good game, by the way.
But the very first Heritage Classic was
they brought
was in Edmonton. It was Montreal versus Edmonton.
Yeah, they had they brought back the Stanley Cup team of the Edmonton Oilers against the Winnipeg Jets. That was great.
But they did it first in Edmonton at the Commonwealth Stadium. It was Montreal versus Edmonton. And it was like minus 40 degrees because they played it in November.
How do they? Where do they choose? I mean, what's the criteria in that?
For the Heritage Classic, Winter Classic, or Stadium Series?
Or the Winter Classic?
For the Heritage
I like
Classic,
that more than the All-Star game. I like the Winter Classic more than the All-Star game.
For the Heritage Classic, it's usually Canadian versus Canadian team. Winter Classic is usually team versus and Stadium Series is like held in the southern areas. They're doing a Stadium Series in Florida next season.
They're really going to have to turn up crank those that keeps the ice frozen. Yeah, they're going to have to turn it down because it's always warm down there.
But they're going to be doing it in a dome, so they could close the dome.
Oh, they'll do it in a dome. They'll probably pick Tampa then, where the Devil Rays play.
No. The Marlins have a dome stadium too.
I didn't know that was a dome.
Roof. Marlins have a retractable roof.
I've been by that stadium. I didn't know it had a roof.
It's a retractable roof. You've been by the old stadium, where now it's the Hard Rock Stadium.
For the old Joe Robbie Stadium. They blew that up.
No, they kept it for the Dolphins.
They did? I thought they blew it up.
No, they renovated it, and now it's the Hard Rock Stadium, and it's
because when you look at it from the highway where the Marlins play, it looks like a castle.
But the Marlins got a new stadium because Derek Jeter's now the part owner.
Yeah, that team.
Jeter's from Florida, isn't he?
I don't know, but the Marlins are famous for having 2 World Series championships and immediately dismantling the team.
Well,
Wonder why they did that? So the owner could have kept a big profit and didn't have to pay them more money. He's like, well, we just dismantle the team, let them go wherever they want to go, and we'll bring in a new crop of rookies.
About the Tampa Bay Devil Rays, they're not playing in the Trop right now.
Well, they're getting a new stadium.
No, the Tropicana Field, the roof blew off during the hurricane.
Yeah, but they were getting a new stadium anyway. They've been
right
building
now,
it.
Right now, they're using the Yankees spring training stadium.
Uh-huh.
The Yankees gave them, let them rent out the stadium for one season.
Yeah, that stadium that the Rays play in was built in the early 90s. That was built because they were trying to lure the Chicago White Sox to move down there.
No.
Yes.
I thought it was Montreal.
No, it wasn't Montreal. They were trying to get the White Sox to move down there because the White Sox wanted a new stadium, and they hadn't gotten it yet. And when they approved them of a new stadium, which they did, they built it across the interstate, which is now known as New Comiskey Park. They decided not to move to Tampa. But it was the Chicago White Sox they were trying to lure down there, and it didn't work. It almost did.
But in my opinion, baseball doesn't work in Florida anyway.
Oh, sure it does. They had a lot of minor league teams down there. Now they got two major league teams.
I thought Florida wasn't really a baseball culture.
No, it was. It was hockey, but it caught on. It took a while, but it finally caught on.
No, I thought Florida was more. I thought Florida was more football.
Years ago, back in the pre-1980s, it was. But when they started getting, the Marlins and the Rays in there as an expansion teams, and the NHL started to move in, it took the NHL a while. They started with minor league hockey teams, and then they brought the NHL teams in, and it took them a while, and they started doing really well. The first one that got pretty popular was the Panthers.
I thought it was the Lightning first.
No, the Panthers were more popular, even though they did. They're not like the Lightning where they won 2 cups already, but they put a stop to it. They had a thing where when they had he was a good goalie, and they both came to Cincinnati. We had Jim Carrey and not Fitzgerald. What was his name? He was a very good goalie they had, and they were in the playoffs.
Van Beesbrook.
No, that's not the name I'm looking for. Because he came to play. Because he played in 3A IHL for the Cincinnati Cyclones. Because that was the AAA team.
Are you thinking Roberto Luongo?
No. This is older than that. I'm talking early 2000. Because Cincinnati, we had Jim Carrey, and his backup was the guy from the NHL of the Panthers. I can't remember his name. But when they would score a goal, they'd throw all those rats on the ice. That was cool.
Yeah, that's Van Beesbrook. You're thinking Van Beesbrook.
He might have been there, but this other one, he came to the Cincinnati Cyclones.
Yeah, Roberto Luongo.
Wasn't Luongo. Luongo might have played for the Cyclones. I don't know, but back then he didn't.
No wait. Luongo was a trade from the Islanders. Yeah, he was a backup goalie for the Islanders. He was backing up Richter.
Yeah, it was like the last year. If you Google it, last season of the IHL, the Cincinnati Cyclones.
Now
two of their goalies. Yeah, they went back to the East Coast.
Now the Cyclones are part of the ECHL.
Yeah, well, they originally started in the ECHL, but they had such good attendance, they moved up to the IHL. and their attendance exploded.
IHL
They should have.
went out of, IHL
they
went
should-
out of business, and they went back to the ECHL.
Yeah, if you asked a diehard fan like me in Ohio, Columbus should not have gotten the NHL team. Cincinnati Cyclones should have been adopted in the NHL. They had the fan base. They had full
But they don't have
stadium.
the arena.
Yeah, they do. They play
It's
in the
not big
Crown,
enough.
right?
Not big enough.
Sure it is. Felt to fit 12,000. I've been to many a game there. It's right next
Is it
to Great
big?
American Ballpark where the Reds play.
Is the arena big enough for NHL?
Yes, it is.
Like, is it NHL caliber?
Yeah. Yeah, they should have done it because here, Columbus had an ECHL team called the Chill. They look like their jerseys made them look like an indoor soccer team, and they played at the fairgrounds, which really isn't a stadium. And they were lucky to get 3,000 people in the seats. The Cyclones at every home game, you were lucky to get a ticket, and they played in the Gardens, and that fit 11,500. They moved out of the Gardens because it was so old.
What about Cleveland? Don't they deserve an NHL team?
They were always on and off again, but they didn't get the attendance that the Cyclones did. If they want to expand in Ohio in the NHL, they need to look at the Cyclones. The Cincinnati Cyclones. Matter of fact, I did the public address for 2 games, back in 1999.
And hey, Cincinnati is good for hockey because back in the 70s, they had a WHA team called the Cincinnati Stingers.
Oh, yeah.
Mark Messier
Well, they did. They did
Mark
have
Messier
an
got his
NHL
start
team.
there.
Yeah, they did have an NHL team way back in the day called the Seals.
No, that wasn't Cincinnati. That was Cleveland Barons.
Yeah, but they had the Seals way back with the before when I was real
That's
little.
that was California Golden Seals.
They may have moved out there, but they started in Cincinnati.
Yeah,
Cincinnati did briefly have an NHL team.
No, you're wrong. It wasn't Cincinnati. It was Cleveland Barons. They moved to California, became Seals.
I
It
thought
was
the
the
Seals were
Cleveland
from
Barons.
Cincinnati.
It was the Cleveland Barons.
They were always a minor league team. The Barons were.
No, they were NHL in the 70s.
In the 70s, they were NHL?
Yeah.
I remember them as minor league.
It was the Cleveland Barons and the Kansas City Scouts and the California Gold Seals and stuff like that. Like,
Kansas City had the Blades.
that's WHA. NHL, they were the Scouts.
But I got to do the public address back then, 99.
There's 2 pro leagues in the 70s. It was the NHL and WHA.
WHA, yeah, WHA.
Yeah.
That's why I made my mistake.
Because,
The Cincinnati team was a WHA team.
yeah, Cincinnati Stingers. Messier got his start there.
Because the original Colorado Rockies was a hockey team.
Yeah, until they moved to Kansas City, and then after Kansas City, they moved to New Jersey, became the Devils.
No, they were the NHL, right? Not
Yeah.
WHA.
No.
They were known as the Rockies because the baseball team had to get the rights, whoever owned them, the rights to the name.
But yeah, the Colorado Rockies hockey team moved to Kansas City to become the Scouts. Then they moved to New Jersey to become the Devils. In 1980, they moved to New Jersey where they became the New Jersey Devils.
I wonder if the Grizz is going to stay in Salt Lake because the NHL team's going to take their fan base.
Grizz are minor league.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not. They can share.
If I was the owner of the NHL team that's in Salt Lake City, I'd ask them to purchase the name of the Grizz.
Can't.
Sure, they could.
No, you can't.
Why couldn't they?
It belongs to the AHL.
East Coast
No,
Hockey
it
League.
belongs to the ECHL.
Yes. They've done things like that before. Because Cincinnati kept when Cincinnati moved up to the IHL, they kept their membership in the East Coast. So they had to create another team. And that's when the Birmingham Bulls of Alabama came in. They had a cool looking jersey too, the Birmingham Bulls. Same color as the Cyclones. Because the Cyclones, when they would ship their players down to 2A, they would go to Birmingham.
You know, the Birmingham Bulls used to be the Toronto Toros in the WHA.
Birmingham Bulls. Yeah, a lot of the East Coast Hockey League teams that I once knew no longer exist. I think the only original teams left is like the Wheeling Nailers. And that's not their original name. Because the Philadelphia Eagles sued them over copyright infringement, so they had to change the name and the logo. So they went with the Nailers. The Wheeling Nailers been there since the start of the East Coast Hockey League. And the Cyclones. And now some of the cities, like Toledo, but they're it's a totally different organization, new name. Like the Toledo Walleye, they used to be the Toledo Storm, but they look like the Red Wings. And the Dayton Bombers, we look like the St. Louis Blues.
Now you got East Coast Hockey League team in Florida called the Solar Bears.
Yeah, they originally started in the IHL.
They're out of Orlando.
Yeah, and like the Norfolk Admirals, they originally started the East Coast, and they were the first to move into the IHL, and they went from Hadman, they were called the Hampton Roads Admirals. Then they switched to Norfolk Admirals. And then I guess they moved back to the East Coast here recently.
No, they weren't part of the IHL. They were part of the AHL.
Oh, it was the AHL, yeah. Because Milwaukee had the Admirals too. I don't know if Milwaukee still has the Admirals or not.
Yep.
Because there's been a lot of shuffling around the teams.
Yep. They're part of the ECHL.
But ECHL expanded too far. They should not have swallowed up the West Coast.
They're not in the West. They're in the East. Like, they stopped around the Pennsylvania area.
They went all the way out. They got the Idaho Walleye that's been around for a long time. The Alaska Aces, and they had a couple of teams in California.
Hey, they got a hockey team in Louisiana called the Swamp Rabbits.
Yeah, well, originally they had a bunch of other teams. They were New Orleans Brass, is what they were called.
Now they're called the Swamp Rabbits.
And Jackson, Mississippi had the I can't remember their name. But there was another small league called the Federal League. That when the Bombers folded, they brought in the Dayton Demons, and they played a few years.
Was the movie Slapshots based on the ECHL?
No, Federal League.
So there was a team called the Chiefs?
Well, we did. The East Coast did, but they weren't the Charlestown Chiefs. They were Johnstown Chiefs. I don't know if they still exist or not.
Same uniform?
No.
So they didn't wear the uniform like the Hanson brothers?
No, but the Hanson brothers were always doing tours during the hockey season. They'd go around from stadium to stadium, and between periods they would hit the ice and do some things with the crowd and all that.
Yeah, but so the movie Slapshots was based around the Federal League, right?
Yes, but the moral of the story was this: because of a lot of the job loss that we were suffering in the late 70s and early 80s when it started, when the steel industry was packing up and leaving the country, That's what it causes. The Charlestown Chiefs couldn't stick around because their fan base was just put on the unemployment line, so they had no money to spend to go to the games. That's what happened to the Dayton Bombers. We lost them because the populace couldn't support them anymore. All those GM and Delphi workers, you're talking over 100,000 workers got put out of a job. At least 2/3 of the city of Dayton got put out of work. That's how bad and that happened in 1994, 95.
Same with Detroit. Detroit was starting to lose businesses around that time too.
In 1980.
So
81.
So Detroit was earlier.
Yes, because I know that real well because two of my aunts and uncles' families moved in with us back in 81 because they shut down the AC spark plug and GM plant in Flint.
Yeah.
That's what destroyed that entire town, and they started doing it around Detroit.
And because I know about the abandoned factories, because of the movie RoboCop, they would film in the abandoned factories.
And they want to know why certain cities can still have a professional team like that, because of the way the league does it now. Back in the day, they didn't do it like that. It was like in the 80s when the entire league started to doing it like this. They're socialized, per se. When you go to a game, regardless of who the home team is, it used to be the home team got all the profits from the sales, whatever. It's not like that anymore. Whatever is made gets split in half.
It's called revenue sharing.
Exactly. It's split between the teams. But it used to not be that way pre-1980.
Yeah, because the league was trying to make it fair.
Yes, and that's why you can see teams in a poor, decrepit city like Detroit can still support an NHL team because of the profit sharing. Now, if it was like that, where the home team only got the profits, oh yeah, Detroit Red Wings would have moved out long ago.
Right. Yeah. The Red Wings, but the Red Wings are a legacy team, so
yeah, they're part of the original 7.
6.
It's 6? I thought it was 7.
6.
I thought they called it the Frozen 7.
No, that's college. In the NHL, it was original 6. It was Detroit, Boston, Chicago, New York, Toronto, Montreal, and Detroit, New York, Chicago, Boston, Montreal, Toronto. Yeah.
Yeah, but none of the original teams that started the NHL are not around anymore.
Yeah, they are. Detroit, Boston.
Well, yeah, those, yes, but there were teams that existed before they came around. But they're no longer, like the Toronto Maroons, they don't exist anymore. They were the first Stanley Cup winners.
Montreal Maroons.
Huh?
Montreal Maroons.
It was Montreal.
Toronto was the arena. Toronto was the arenas / St. Pat's.
Oh, okay. Because they were the first Stanley Cup winners. Boy, that is an old picture, too. They actually did wear sweaters back then, and the skates looked really weird.
Yeah, they clipped onto your shoes.
Yeah, it was very primitive back then.
But they made it work.
Lord Stanley, Lord, what do we give the championship team? His drunk ass, drunk out of his goblet, and he just threw it on the table. Give him that.
It was not a goblet.
Well, it was a big cup because that's the top of the Stanley Cup.
But it's not technically a cup. It was a vase for flowers.
Well, he drank out of it because that's the story. He was drunk and he was like, "What do you give to the championship team?" He threw it on the table, said, "Give him this."
Yeah, Challenge Cup. And it wasn't originally owned by the NHL. It was for any hockey team, any league to challenge for the cup.
Yeah, if you're good enough.
Yeah, but the NHL bought it, and now they're owners of the Stanley Cup.
It's the oldest and hardest championship trophy to get.
And the most beautiful trophy ever.
I wonder what it would look like if they hadn't removed some of the tiers off of it. It's like, we can't freaking lift this thing. How do you get a hold of it? That thing would be like 7-8 foot tall if they left all the tiers on it.
Yeah, but they have to take out some of the rings.
Yeah, but imagine if they were all still there. How tall that cup would be.
It'd be
Like,
you wouldn't fit it in that little case that they bring it to the arenas with,
no, and they wouldn't be able to hold it like they normally do.
and you wouldn't be able to get it through the airport. You have to ship it by train.
I'm just curious how many rings would be on it if they had all of them on it. That's what I'm curious about.
I don't think that much.
Oh yeah, there would be. I know it'd be at least twice as tall as what it really is.
But I don't think it'd be like gigantic.
Are you fucking serious?
Because
I'm sorry, idiots. The lane's closing up and people are hitting the gas. It's like, you really want to smash and decapitate everybody in your car to get in front of me? You're going to get right behind another truck anyway. These people are idiots.
but I think the Stanley Cup wouldn't be that huge.
That'd be something to Google right now. Google it. You know, how many rings would there be on the Stanley Cup if they had them all on there?
Actually, you're right. It could have been like 10 feet tall.
Because I know they've been removing rings, you know,
Just to
every
just to
few
keep it-
years.
just to keep it a manageable size.
Yeah.
But they don't remove the team off the record books. They just put the rings in the Hall of Fame.
Uh-huh.
They have a wall in the vault for the rings or the bands, and they cut the bands and they flatten it out, and you could still see your favorite team on the bands. They when the ring is full, they take it off so they could put a blank ring in to fill it up with more names of teams.
Yeah. When the bottom gets full, they remove the top and move them all up.
Or they remove the bottom part. Because there's a screw in the bottom, the base of the cup. Like there's screws and something where they could take the base of the cup off and remove the ring.
Because they put the name of every player on the team on there, too.
Not just the players, the coaches, the training staff, anybody that's involved. And if the Seattle Kraken would have been in the playoffs and won the Stanley Cup, there would have been a female put on the Stanley Cup because the assistant coach of the Seattle Kraken is a woman.
Wasn't the first woman drafted in the NHL was Manon Rhéaume, the goalie for the Tampa Bay Lightning? I saw her play, not for the Tampa Bay Lightning, because, yeah, she was there, but they moved her down to the Atlanta Knights for a few games, and then they moved her back down to the 2A team called the Knoxville Knights. Or Nashville Knights, the Atlanta Knights, and then the Nashville Knights. That's how it went. The 3A team of the Lightning was the Atlanta Knights, and the East Coast 2A team that looked just like the Atlanta Knights were the Nashville Knights, because she played for the Nashville Knights in the East Coast, and we got to see her play. And there was another female that a couple years later that showed up on the scene. She got drafted by the Red Wings and got moved all the way down to the Toledo Storm, and I saw her play. They were both good. Nobody scored on them, but they didn't start the girls. They had the guys in. And we started just kicking the shit out of their goalie. But when they put the girl in to replace the goalie, she didn't give up not one goal. And believe me, she was fighting. That's why when every save she made, we cheered.
Do you think women should be allowed in men's sports if they're good enough?
Why not? MLB did it. There was a female pitcher. I can't remember. I think it was the California Angels. And she was good too.
Was it during the preseason or during a full season?
I don't remember if it was a preseason or the start of the season game.
But yeah, like Haley Wickenheiser was drafted by the Philadelphia Flyers. No, she wasn't drafted. She gained access to do a tryout with the Philadelphia Flyers. Haley Wickenheiser.
Yeah, but Manon Rhéaume looked like a model. She was a hottie. And Erin Wooden wasn't bad looking either. She was blonde hair. Manon Rhéaume, she was hot.
Manon Rhéaume is still hot. I've seen pictures of her now. She's like still gorgeous.
Where did she end her career?
She probably ended it in Tampa. Like, just said, fuck it, I'm not playing anymore.
But she was the first drafted in the NHL.
Now she does commentary for the French CBC.
But they were good as goalies because women tend to be more limber than men.
But yeah, I'm saying now she does commentary for the French CBC.
Yeah.
I don't think she lasted that long in the NHL too because she only knew French. She didn't know how to speak English.
She lacked size. She knew a little bit of English because I talked to her.
Did she have a thick French accent?
Yes.
I think she knows a few words in English, but I don't think she knows all English.
Yeah, there was a card show at Hare Arena, and 2 days later she was playing a game there against our Dayton Bombers, and she was signing autographs there. And believe me, there were a lot of people showed up wanted her autograph. I didn't know who the hell she was.
Mostly the girls, probably.
And me and my dad, he'd always get 3 tables. Because believe me and my dad and my brother, we collected cards, especially my dad. And we were set up 2 tables down from her. I didn't know who she was.
You just wanted to get her phone number to ask her on a date.
Well, she was, at that time, I think I was 25. And I was hanging around with my dad, and she was signing autographs, and I didn't know that a woman was signed to the NHL, and it was the beginning of the season for the 2A Dayton Bombers. It was like game 3, and we were at home, and she was playing against us. We beat them 3-2.
Come on, you wanted to ask her on a date, didn't you?
Well, there was a lot of guys on her ass, but I didn't know who she was. She goes, "You play hockey too?" I said, "Yeah." I said, I'm on the practice squad for the Dayton Bombers. Because she saw me having a Dayton Bombers t-shirt on. Nope, I didn't get asked to dress. And by some miracle, I ended up in the fucking game. And in that one game, I got 5 minutes for fighting. Because the star goalie got.
And that was your last game in the professionals.
What happened was, I would always be on the practice squad, and Jeff Stolt got called up to Minnesota.
Yeah,
and he was our star goalie. So we had Taylor. I can't remember his first name. Taylor. He was number 1. He was the backup goalie.
Who'd you say your
And
goalie was?
Jeff Stoll.
Okay.
STOLP.
He's now with the Maple Leafs. He's their starter.
He's long retired. Jeff
He's with
Stoll.
the Leafs.
Not right now. He isn't. He retired a long time ago. Jeff Stoll would be in his 60s.
Then that could be his son.
It probably is. The Jeff Stoll that I knew retired long ago.
No, wait, it's not. Like, how did you spell it again?
STOLP.
Oh, never mind. Because the goalie, the starter goalie is Stolarz. STOLARZ.
Yeah, because Jeff Stolp was 10 years older than I was. So that put him like 64 years old. I don't think he played in.
So he would have been in the Minnesota North Stars.
Yeah, he was drafted originally by the North Stars and got sent to us. And he was our star goalie. He got called up, and then Taylor became the starting goalie, but they needed an emergency backup, so they called me. They're like, "Would you like to dress tonight?" I'm like, "Fucking hey, yeah, I'll do it." What number? 33. Like, we got a jersey for you. I'm like, I'm there, dude. I showed up long before anybody else did. And I got to hold it. I was like, oh, wow. They let me keep it, too. I said, what about the road jersey? We didn't make one yet. If you're still on the team tomorrow, then for the next day, we're on the road to Johnstown. Then we'll have to make you one. You can keep that one, too. My son has it. But I was 33. What happened was we were playing against our number 1 rival, the Toledo Storm.
Yeah.
And they look like the Red Wings, okay? And there was a troublemaker on there. And I never really liked him. I never really got to know him. But I'm sitting there, I'm just smiling, and they mentioned my name. I was the last one out because 33 was the largest number on the team. And number 33, Sean Moore. And I come skating out, and everybody in the stands knew I'm waving. And I'm like, pay attention, Rook. And I'm like, okay, I'm just standing there. I was just happy to be there. Towards the end of the first period, there's almost like a bench clearing brawl. And the assistant coach, at first it was Jim Playfair, which later on became the head coach of the Calgary Flames, sat on me. He goes, don't get involved. You're the only goalie we got. I'm like, all right. I said, well, Taylor's out there. He said, yeah, but he's probably going to get ejected, so you might want to get ready. I'm like, oh, you can't be serious. I didn't think I was going to make it in the game. Yeah, he got ejected along with the other goalie and 2 other players. So I had to go in and finish the game. I had to finish up like 3 minutes and 28 seconds in the first period and had to do the second and third period. I shut them out. But the deal was, in the second period, their defensive men, what was his name? Hang on one second. He was a total asshole. I can't remember shit. But he took a shot from the blue line. I stopped it right away. Bam. And I stood up and I skated out of and I was holding it, and I skated out of the crease. That's to let him know that I'm not going to give it up because I know the whistle's going to get blown. And I skated out of the crease and then went back. He was still skating because he was at top speed. He skated around the net, and then he take his stick and he tapped me on the top of my helmet. And I looked right over at him. Stick and helmet went over there, and I said, what the fuck you do that for?
Sean.
And then, yeah.
Sean, interesting you mentioned the name Playfair.
Yeah, Jim Playfair. He ends up being the head coach of the Calgary Flames.
His son is an actor for a TV show called Letterkenny.
Really?
Dylan Playfair.
Dylan? I would never know he was an actor. I know he played. But Jim Playfair, he played hockey. He won
But
the Turner
Dylan-
Cup for the Indianapolis Ice years ago.
Dylan Playfair, his son, is an actor. He was on a show called Letterkenny. And guess what he plays on the show Letterkenny?
Now, Jim Playfair, where'd he end his career?
What's that?
Where did Jim Playfair end his career at? Was it with Calgary?
I think Edmonton.
I remember he went to the Calgary Flames and he was breaking a lot of sticks because he was pissed at this referee. He had one foot on the top of the boards and he was just slamming those sticks, breaking sticks because he was pissed at that referee. I'll never forget that game. I was watching it. But he sat on me, then he got up, and then the assistant coach sat on me because they didn't want me to go out on the ice because they needed a goalie. And yeah, they loved me after the end of the game to shut him out. But I got a 5-minute penalty
By the
for
way,
fighting.
Jim Playfair played with the East. He played with Dayton in the ECHL. You're right.
Yeah, that was when they were called the Dayton Gems of the IHL.
ECHL.
The Dayton Gems.
ECHL says 93 to 94. Dayton ECHL 90.
Oh, I didn't know he played for the Bomber. I knew he was our coach.
He only played with the Calgary Flames in the NHL.
Well, he was
coaching. Just for fuck's sakes. I went too far.
Yeah, well, see, before we had the Bombers years ago was the Dayton Gems, and they were in the IHL, but Playfair won the Turner Cup in the IHL with the Indianapolis Ice. That I knew his history there. And he did play for the Blackhawks. Playfair did.
Yeah, let me see. Like, he played with the Oilers too.
Oh, he did? I didn't know that. But see, I knew he was our head coach, and then he got...
he was part of their Stanley Cup winning team, 83-84 with the Edmonton Oilers.
I did not know that. Huh. But I do know this. When he left Dayton, he got signed to the St. John's Flames, which was the 3A of the Calgary team.
That was the AHL team for the Calgary Flames. Yeah.
Yeah, 3A. Because he was a really good coach.
It's not baseball. We call it AHL.
But I'll never forget it. I kicked his ass, too. I skated over to him and grabbed a hold of him. He tried to check me. That didn't do anything. I said, what the hell did you hit me in the freaking head for?
Is this when you were playing?
Yeah.
For which
I went right. Dayton Bombers. I took my helmet off and my glove and stick went down, and everybody knew it was on. He tried to raise his stick to check me, but I grabbed a hold of him and shoved him against the boards, and we were going at it. I got a good couple of hits on his face. He didn't hit me. I knocked his ass to the ice, and they gave me 5 minutes for fighting. But somebody served it for me. And he told me, I'm going to get you. We're going to get you. I'm like, you go ahead, you fucking Canuck. We were going at it. I shut him out.
Shit, you shouldn't have done that. He made it in the NHL. You didn't.
I think he did. God damn it. I get so many names and I get so jumbled and screwed up, and sometimes I have a brain fart. Can't remember the freaking names. Oh, Stalinsky. That's what his name was. I know there was ski at the end of it. It was Stalinsky. Like, you motherfucker. You know, he was good. But I stonewalled him a couple times.
Were you goalie?
Huh?
Were you goalie?
Yeah, I was the goalie. I was the emergency backup goalie. Paul Taylor was his name. Yeah, he got ejected with the other goalie for leaving the crease. And there were some other things involved, but I'm like, why'd they have to eject him? Let somebody serve the penalty. Not for what they did. It's what the lineman said. And I'm like, okay.
Just what year did you play in?
Oh, I think it was 96. 95, 96. They probably don't even have a record of it because it was just that one game. I remember in the NHL, they had their emergency. I can't remember what team it was. I think it was the Hurricanes, maybe. They brought an emergency backup goalie.
Marley's Zamboni driver.
Yeah, it was the Zamboni driver. I thought he was maybe the medical trainer or something like that.
Zamboni driver, but he also played. He played professional.
But he shut him out like I did. That's what it reminded me of it, because he shut him out just like I did, and it was like, wow. But he didn't get into a fight like I did. My motherfucker hit me on top of the head with a stick. Referees didn't whistle it. If the referees would have whistled it, I wouldn't have done that. The only time I heard a whistle is when I went over there. I took my shit off and skated over to and shoved him into the boards and started swinging on him.
Yeah.
I remember Jim Playfair he goes, that was a hell of a fight. He goes, man, the way you were decking him, reminded me of Patrick Waugh. Because me and Patrick Waugh are the same size. And then I said, I styled my play after him. Patrick Waugh and Eddie Belfour were my idols in hockey. Patrick Waugh and Ed Belfour, they were my favorites.
And both Canadian boys.
Yep. That's why if I was a Montreal Canadian fan, I would have hung the coach and everybody else like I would have in Edmonton. You're going to let Patrick Waugh walk? Are you kidding? Like, we need to kill these people.
Patrick Waugh wanted
I'll never forget that.
Patrick Waugh wanted out because they didn't pull him when they're being scored relentlessly on.
Yeah, do you remember when his defense, he made a hell of a save and it ricocheted off his defensive man and knocked it in the net? Oh, that pissed him off. Made a hell of a pad save, but the puck came out and it hit the Canadian defensive man and knocked it in the net. And it was like, oh, if that was on defense, I would have felt like shit. I'd been like, Pat, I am so sorry. Isn't he the head coach of the Avalanche right now? Or he was?
He's the coach of the Islanders.
But he was the head coach of the Avalanche, right?
Yeah. Till he got in a lot of trouble because he was like breaking the partition between the benches.
Oh, I remember seeing that. He was wanting to go after the other head coach. They were going at it.
Handsome guy wants in.
Oh, okay. I don't see anybody in the...
He was in the private chat. He's saying, anybody home?
Yeah, I don't see a dot under guess. I'm hitting it. I don't see anybody there. There were two. There were two players that I was on that team with that went to the NHL. Pascal Trepanier, he went to the Avalanche.
Didn't survive.
He was number 7, I believe, for the Avalanche. And his nickname was the Magician. Craig Sharon. He was the nephew of the goalie of the American Olympic team, the Miracle on Ice. He was his nephew. His uncle was the goalie, number 30, for the USA team. Joe Craig. Craig Sharon. He went to the Canadiens.
Didn't survive.
No. Well, there was one other, but he didn't last that long either. Brandon Smith, he went to Boston. He was a big defensive man.
He lasted the longest.
Yeah, he lasted longer than the other two.
I think he's now with the Rhode Island. I mean, Providence.
Well, all the guys I played with are long retired. They were older than me, Most of them were.
Yeah.
They're in their late 50s, early 60s.
Hey, Chris Chelios played until his 50s.
Yeah, the biggest name, I would say, because he was in the NHL a lot, and he was coming towards the end of his career, was the forward Sergei Kurin. He was Russian.
Yeah. How did he fare?
I'm sorry.
How did he fare? Like, did he make
He
it
was.
through?
Yeah, he got a couple call-ups, but he was toward the end of his career. But he was an NHL player. He had an NHL career.
Yeah, that's cool. Any Stanley Cups?
I don't think so. But he was treated like royalty.
Which team did he play for?
I don't remember. All I know is he was a big name, and he had a long NHL career, up and down from the minor leagues.
Yeah.
He could still play, but he was losing his gift because of age, like they all do.
Yeah. Some players stick around too long. But I get it. They're having fun. If they're not having fun, then why worth do it, eh? Yeah. By the way, I just noticed your truck is not the blue truck with the decal anymore.
No, I got rid of that back in December. I had to sell it. I got a new KW.
How's that truck handling? Huh.
Oh, really well. I was a season ticket holder too, and I would sit behind the goalie, and that's where the tunnel was, where they came out, and that's where the home goal was. First and third period was at that goal, behind the goal where we came out in the tunnel, and I always sat on that side in section 12 at Hare Arena.
So you're close to the goal judges.
Yeah. Well, and what I would do, I'd be up about halfway. Hare Arena could only fit 5,500 people. And I sat behind the goal there, and every game I was wearing my jersey. The girls would come up to me, and they'd want me to sign their program and everything. I said, ladies, I only played one game. And the people I sat next to, I became friends with. They were like, every time they came down, we were holding our breath for you. And I'm like, I heard you guys cheering for me every time I made a save. Like, some of those were spectacular. I'm like, yeah, there were some that I felt like, whew, I got lucky.
Yeah.
But I did cheat a lot too. The defensive men tried screening me. That's usually pretty popular. And I just let my stick, go up around by his foot, and then I would, when I would shift, I would pull and try to trip them up. And it worked a few times. They'd fall down, and I'm like, good, they're blocking that part of the goal. Yeah. Sometimes I'd push them out of the way. And a lot of times I'd have to call over one of my defense, like, get this asshole out from in front of me. Because there's a lot of shit being talked out on the ice.
Yeah, there was a goalie in the NHL named Billy Smith. He didn't even like his own defenseman in front of him. He wanted to see the puck, so he would even slash his own defenseman with his stick, like just to move him out of the
Yeah, like if there's a guy there, I'm like, get him out of the way. And I'm usually I told the guys on defense, don't go any further than the pipes on the right and left. Let me handle it. Because if you stick your stick out there and I'm going down to make a save, you deflect it and it goes up and top shelves me and I'm screwed.
Yeah. My sister's favorite goalie was Ronnie Hextall.
But basically, me and guys like Patrick Waugh, we covered up half of the net just standing there. Because we were big guys.
Yeah. Ronnie Hextall was a big guy too, wasn't he?
Yes.
You know who Ron Hextall is, don't you?
Oh, yeah. Famous goalie.
Yeah, for the Philadelphia Flyers
Mm-hmm.
and Quebec Nordiques at the end of his career.
He was with the Nordiques at the end of his career?
Yeah,
Huh. I wouldn't have known that.
and when Tampa Bay Lightning first came in the league, he was one of their first coaches. He was like their goalie coach when they first came into the league, the Tampa Bay Lightning.
But what affected a lot of the attendance to a lot of minor league teams that only last a while is if there's a good working class people in that city, you're going to do well. But if there's a lot of extreme job loss, yeah, you're going to lose attendance and you're going to end up having to fold or move.
No.
That's why a lot of minor league teams have shuffled around so much in the past years. And the only ones that survive are the ones that cities that can support a team. Because the Dayton Bombers, we were able to support them until all 5 Delphi plants shut down, along with GM and truck and bus, that put 2/3 of the city out of work. Yeah, that attended the games. They're not coming to the games anymore. Your attendance falls off to like 1,200 a game, and that can't support a team.
Not even a junior team. Even juniors, the junior leagues here in Canada, they're just as popular as the NHL. And they depend on the money coming in too. Like the WHL, CHL, like the CHL with the WHL, OHL, and QMJHL, they're just as popular as the NHL up here in Canada.
What league is the Hitmen in? Or is that a juniors team?
WHL, Calgary Hitmen.
I thought they were a juniors team.
Western Hockey League.
I was amazed to find out they're still there because Brett the Hitman sold his interest to the team long ago.
They're still there.
But they're not a juniors team.
Yeah, they are. They're part of the
they are a
WHO.
junior team.
They're part of the WHO, Western Hockey League. The CHL, the Canadian Hockey League, has like its own separate leagues for like the regions. Like you have the QMJHL, which is for the Quebec and East. You have the OHL, which is Ontario, Manitoba, and Michigan.
So every province has their own league, per se.
No, not province, region.
Oh, region?
Because WHL also has teams in Portland and Everton and Seattle and Spokane and stuff like that. We reach to some of the American cities.
Because every small team in Canada has got, or every city has got a team in Canada.
Not every city.
Yeah.
Not
in
every
Saskatchewan city. And what's the other one next to it?
Alberta?
I can't remember. Oh no, on the other side, Manitoba. Yeah, they got a lot of teams. Got Moose Jaw and all that, and they're not very big cities.
Moose Jaw's in Saskatchewan.
Yeah. And then one of my favorite minor league teams, and I always wanted to get my hands on a jersey because I thought they looked so cool, was in the IHL, was the Manitoba Moose.
They're still there.
Oh, really? Because it looked like Campbell Joe as the logo on the jersey, but it was a moose.
It's not IHL, it's AHL.
Well, it's AHL now, but they were in the IHL because they played against the Cincinnati Cyclones.
But now everybody's part of the AHL. Like,
Well, yeah, when the IHL folded, they either went to the East Coast or they went to the AHL.
Manitoba Moose is the Winnipeg Jets farm team. And they
Yeah,
play in
John
the same
Brill.
arena. And they play in the same arena.
Yeah, John Brill that got called up to the AAA Manitoba Moose. He was on my team. He was number 16. He was a left winger. Good player.
Yeah, but there's still a league. There's still a team in the league, but now they adopted the Winnipeg Jets colors.
Yeah, I wish they'd bring back some of the other old teams. You know, like the Nordiques. I hope they bring them because there's been a lot of talk of bringing the Nordiques back.
Hey, Batman's going to quit in a couple of years, so maybe.
I'm just wondering if they could revive that rivalry. Because you got people that'll tune in just to see. They're like, okay, is it going to get really bad like it did back in the day?
Montreal and Quebec?
Yeah, the Habs against the Nords. Oh my God, that was in all sports. That was the most nastiest rivalry in all sports. Was between those two teams.
The French Quebecers versus the English Quebecers.
In short, they called them the Habs and the Nords.
No, it was the Montreal Canadiens, which would have been the English, and the Nordiques would have been the French.
Mm-hmm.
Because Montreal is mostly, Montreal is half English, half French.
I like how they got their nickname though, because there were the Habitants. They called them the Habs.
No. Yeah, but the H in the logo for Montreal Canadiens, that's not for Habs.
A lot of people think it is.
It's for hockey. Hockey Club of Montreal.
But I'm just hoping that one day, I know my oldest sister's got some of my jerseys. I can't find them. And I'm like, what the hell happened to them? I had a lot of them. The only one that I got on my truck is the home jersey for the Blackhawks, and it's got Patrick Kane on it. And that's in my top bunk.
He's retired.
But I wanted to throw up when I saw him in that Ranger jersey.
Hockey's a business. Like with the Gretzky thing, everybody thought Gretzky was an Oiler for life, but
I did too. Like I said, if I was there, I'd be like, we're gonna have a hanging.
But Sather said Gretzky, we could stop it, stop the trade if you Gretzky was being so getting so emotional. Sather says we could stop it, but Pocklington sold Gretzky, not Sather.
Because it's like we got a lot of dynasty of cups coming, and then once they let them go, it's like we're losing our cups, man. Because who's going to beat them? That was a hell of a team.
But thank God Messier lasted one more year for Edmonton. Did win them a cup in 1991.
Yeah, but a lot of them would have stayed if they would have kept Gretzky.
Yeah.
Who was it? McDonald, or I'm getting it wrong? McDonald. He was the last player that was grandfathered in that didn't have to wear a helmet, and he never did.
Nope.
McLean. What was his name?
McTavish.
McTavish. That's it. I knew there was a Mick in there somewhere.
Craig McTavish.
He was the last player that didn't have to wear a helmet.
Because he started his career in Boston without a helmet.
Really? I thought he was always in an Oiler.
No, he started his career in Boston. Edmonton took him in because he was being too reckless in Boston, and Edmonton said we could calm him down.
I'm just glad when I started playing in Little League that's when they adopted the new helmet. Instead of that plastic face mask like Jason Voorhees, where they finally invented that one helmet that we know of today.
Are you talking about the Jacques Plante mask? Fuck you. The Jason Voorhees mask? Jacques Plante invented the goalie mask.
Yeah, but you still get hit in the face with that. It's still going to hurt.
But at least you're not going to get cuts.
Yeah, because I remember my first year in Little League, they were like, "We got new masks and the helmets for the goalies," and I saw it, and I'm like, "Oh wow!" I went, "Let me have it," and I put it on. It fit perfectly, and I said I could see a little bit better, but I can still see some of the bars in my visual vision. But this is great.
Yeah.
But the first thing I noticed, I'm like, they didn't have a shield to protect the throat.
Because Clint Malarchuk didn't happen yet.
Yeah, they didn't have them yet. It was until later on that they had a guy drilled 2 holes in the mask and put 2 bolts in there with the things that just hangs down.
But you guys didn't have a neck guard like that went underneath the jersey?
No, it just dangled there.
I mean, you didn't have a neck guard underneath the jersey, like
no,
like that. Mm-hmm. You could like it was a piece of equipment that was part of the padding.
No, I mean there was a little bit that came off the soft part of the throat, but that was the vest that you wore, shoulder pad vest type thing.
All right.
And boy, man, you literally cook in those pads. That's why you're not skating or doing much, but you're sweating your ass off.
Yeah. My sister dated a guy that brought his hockey equipment home, and you could smell it.
Oh, yeah. It was bad. But our guy sprayed it with Lysol. That became used a lot of to get rid of the odor was Lysol.
Because you can't throw it in the laundry.
Nope. After the game, you'd see him in there, grounding everything up. You hitting it with the Lysol.
The only thing that could go in the laundry are the jerseys and the socks.
And the girdles.
Well, the jock straps, yeah.
Well, we all look like we were. If we didn't put the socks on, it looked like we're wearing shorts. They throw that in there.
But I'm saying that's the only thing you could throw in the laundry are the jock straps, the socks, and the jerseys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The pads are too big to fit in the washing machine. But the goalie pads, they didn't smell because they were outside the socks, weren't they?
Well, the leg pads, that they would get sweat. You'd sweat through everything to those leg pads, but just on that one side. Mostly that if they didn't hit it, it was mostly, what you wore, the chest protector and that has the shoulder pads connected to it and everything.
I bet you still had to Lysol the gloves.
Not really.
I'm talking the players, like not the goalies, but the players.
Well, yeah, the players. Yeah, the glove, believe it or not, in hockey, I had a left-handed stick. But when I played baseball, I was a switch hitter, but most of my power came from the right side. But when I played baseball, my glove hand was my left hand. And that's why I told them, well, then you need a right-handed glove. I'm like, no, left hand. Because when I played baseball, I had a good glove hand on my left hand. I said, I could shoot all right with a left-handed stick. I'm like, go ahead.
All you'd have to do is flatten the blade.
Oh, and by the way, I did get a goal in that too, in that game. At the third period, they pulled the goalie. And I don't know if it was a miscommunication, but I ended up with the puck at the end of my stick, and they were changing it up.
And you just shot it down the ice, and it went in the net.
Yeah, on my right hand side is where the benches are. Left hand side is where the penalty boxes were. And they shot it down ice and they changed it up, and I stopped it a couple feet to the left of the goal. I stopped it with my stick, and then I shot it up ice, but I ricocheted off the boards in front of the penalty boxes, and it went right. I didn't expect it. It bounced, hit right there in the middle, and it went right into the goal. A couple players dove to try to stop it from going in the goal, but it went.
I bet you felt good.
No, I was just wanting to get it back up ice because they can't whistle icing on us. So I just shot it, boom, and everybody turned around, and then it went into the goal, and they all scared. I saw the red light come on. I saw the two players diving from the other team, from the Toledo, and everybody turned around, came back towards me with their hands raised up. I'm like, it went in? Because I didn't get to see it. I knew I hit the boards. I just wanted to get it up ice. Because there was only like a minute 28 left. But that was my claim to fame in that game. 5-minute penalty for fighting, and towards the end of the game, I got an empty netter.
Hey, you redeemed yourself after the fight.
Well, the good thing was there wasn't a power play.
Right.
They charged both of us 5 minutes for fighting.
But you didn't have to go in the penalty box because you're a goalie. Someone had to serve the penalty for you.
No, yeah, they had someone serve it for me because they knew that we didn't have anybody else to play goalie.
But in the NHL too, NHL goalies don't even serve the penalty. They send a player to serve the penalty for the goalie.
Yeah, what kept me from not getting kicked out of the game was I obeyed the referees. You disobey a referee and keep going, yeah, you're going to get thrown out of the game. That's what happened to Paul Taylor. And as soon as the referees got in between us, but I already punched the dude, busted his lip. I hit his helmet a few times, and my knuckles paid for it that next day. I didn't feel it during the game or after the game. But that next morning, my hand swelled up. It was like, ah.
So whereabouts are you right now?
I am in Nebraska. I'm like 30 or 40 miles away from entering Central Time Zone. I'm going to Lexington, exit 230 something. I'm 119 miles from where I got to be.
No, I'm not asking distance. I'm just saying, like, you went from a nice sunny day, now it looks like it's getting a storm.
Yeah. Well, I'm going in the direction that the clouds go, east. I'm in Big Springs, Nebraska.
Not Omaha?
Big Springs, that Flying J I passed about 20 minutes ago. That's where I met Toby Keith, and I didn't have a clue who the hell he was. He was sitting behind me in a booth at the restaurant at that Flying J truck stop. And all these girls came over, and I looked over, and he looked at me. He goes, "You want one too?" And I was like, "One what?" He goes, "My autograph?" I'm like, "Why would I want your autograph?" He goes, "Oh, you don't know who I am? You're a trucker." I'm like, "I'm a rock and roll man." He goes, "I'm Toby Keith." I'm like, "Okay." I didn't have a clue who the hell he was because I don't really listen to country. Now, I know old school like Waylon Jennings and Jerry Reed, the old school stuff.
And Johnny Cash.
I'm not so much Johnny Cash. I knew Johnny Cash, but I was more of a Waylon Jennings fan because, he did the theme song for the Dukes of Hazzard.
Would Johnny Cash be more rock? But would Johnny Cash be more rock and roll than country?
No, country.
Had a rock and roll attitude.
Yeah. He would be like he was like a country outlaw. That's what they'd call outlaw.
So would they be like the country version of rock and roll?
Possibly, yeah.
Because Waylon Jennings was, Chris Christopherson was,
But
Willie
see,
Nelson is.
I've listened to some music, modern day country music. They all sound alike. Back in the day, when you heard the country song come on, you heard the singer, you immediately knew who that was because they have a very distinctive voice.
Oh, that's Tex Ritter. Oh, that's yeah, that's Dolly Parton. Oh wait, that's Loretta Lynn. No, like
Yeah, Waylon Jennings had a very distinctive voice as a country singer.
yeah. You know Tex Ritter's son is John Ritter, don't you?
Oh, it is? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Would Glenn Campbell be country?
I'm not familiar with.
You never heard of the song "Rhinestone Cowboy"? Like
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember. I was like 5 years old when that song came out.
But would he be country or would he be pop?
That's country. Although they did play it on the regular radio, like pop music, but it was actually listed as country.
And Convoy would be country, wouldn't it?
Chris Christopherson, yes, he's a country singer.
But the song Convoy, we're gonna drive a big convoy. Da, 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 da.
Yeah, I listen to that. It makes me want to throw up. It worked way back then, but today people would look at you like, "What the hell?" No.
Nobody even does a convoy anymore, anyway. You don't see a group of truckers driving down the highway much anymore.
Yeah, well, see, everybody thinks truckers is synapses with country music. Well, that may be so back in the day, but today, if I were to play a song about truckers, I'd go with the Cult, and Fire Woman would be a good one by the Cult.
Or Taking Care of Business by BTO.
Not necessarily taking care of business.
Rolling down
let
the
it
highway?
roll, let it roll. Yeah, that was about trucking. But me, it's the Cult, Fire Woman, Smokestack Lightning. Oh yeah, baby.
Were the Cult from Australia?
No, I don't think so.
Like
I think
know
they were
they're
from
not
Vancouver.
the Cult.
Yeah, they were from Vancouver or Washington. I can't remember.
I'll look it up.
I know the Lover Boy was from Vancouver, BC.
Yeah.
Brian Adams, where was he from? I know he's Canadian.
He was born in Toronto.
Oh, he's from Edmonton?
No, he was born in Toronto.
But when he became famous, he was in Edmonton, right?
Yeah. Same with Tommy Chong. Tommy Chong from Cheech and Chong, he was from Edmonton.
He was Canadian? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Oh, the Cult, they're from England. They're from Bradford, United Kingdom.
Really? I would never guess that. And
They're
I've
British.
seen them do interviews. They don't sound
They're
British.
They're British.
Because when I was listening to the lead singer, he sounded like he was an American. He didn't have that British accent.
Maybe he lost the accent over time. Ian Astbury is the lead singer.
Yeah, the song Highway to Hell by AC/DC, that's another one. Matter of fact, I did a live stream doing that once. I was pulling out of the truck stop in Montepuller, Utah, right there on Route 666. It's now known as 491. That's the Devil's Highway. And I played it Highway to Hell by AC/DC while doing a live stream. I'm on a highway to hell.
You know what else is a good trucker song? Judas Priest's heading down the highway.
Yes.
Oh, that's a biker song. They're on motorcycles in that music video.
And Blackfoot.
Bikers and truckers are basically the same thing.
Oh yeah,
On the highway a lot.
yeah. Blackfoot did a lot of music about trucking, like a left turn on a red light, highway song.
Deep Purple, Space Trucking.
I never really listened to Deep Purple.
And
But
Highway Star is about the song Highway Star from Deep Purple is not about trucks. It's about a guy who's like driving real fast on the highway with his sweet car.
But BTO is famous for having a song that they were just fucking around the recording studio.
You ain't seen nothing yet?
Yeah, that's how it was invented. They were screwing around the studio and created that, and they thought it was the throwaway, and it became real popular with them.
Yeah, the producer says keep it.
But baby, it just ain't seen nothing yet. You know, because I karaoke that on Darren's live stream a few times.
You know why? You know why Randy Bachman stuttered in that video in the song, don't you?
No.
He was making fun of his brother Robbie Bachman, who did stutter.
Yeah, well, that was a part of it. They were screwing around in the record studio, and that they were doing that song, and they were just screwing around,
Yeah,
and it ended up being a big hit for him.
Randy Bachman was just razzing his brother because his brother stuttered.
Yeah, oh, and another thing I realized here recently, before my K1 went kaput, I've been waiting to get home to get my new one. Was on Darren's live stream. I went ahead and bit the bullet and said, "Look, I'm going to do more Canadian stuff," and I did Gordon Lightfoot, Sundown, and Darren said, "You did a hell of a job." I'm like, "Really?" I thought I was going to suck at that song.
With Gordon Lightfoot, you got to sing it a certain way. You can't just sing it like rock and roll. You got to sing it like Lightfoot, like that. He always had that soft spoken voice.
Yeah, he was from London, Ontario, right?
Yeah. My favorite Gordon Lightfoot song is The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald.
Yeah, that one.
Have you ever heard of that song?
Oh yeah, it's depressing. To me, it sounds depressing.
But I'm not saying it's my favorite because of the mood. I'm saying because the storytelling takes you as inside the ship while it's sinking.
Yeah, in that song, Sundown, you listen to the guitar solo, caused me to believe he was influenced by B.B. King, because when you listen to that guitar solo, I'm like, that sounds like B.B. King playing. In the song Sundown, the guitar solo part, I'm like, that's B.B. King.
Sundown, you better watch it.
Because it has a blues sound to it. Can you talk to everybody while I go in the truck stop? I got to take a 10-100.
You mean a piss?
Yeah, I'll be right back. So don't keep them entertained, would you?
Depends on
who's.
It's only me watching.
Yeah, if you have share on your messenger, send her the StreamYard link. Say, hey, come here. And I'll be right back, okay?
She's probably in bed because it's nighttime in the Philippines.
Yeah, but she has insomnia. Trust me, she's awake. She has a severe case of insomnia. She's always awake. I'll see you in a minute. Just a shout out right away. I'm at this TA in Ogallala, Nebraska. The fellas here, oh, they were hilarious at the counter. I hope they enjoyed it because I had to get some bottled water and a coffee. And one of them sounded like Hank Hill, and he knows it too.
I'm going to take off. My game's going to start soon.
Which game?
Toronto.
It's playoffs, right?
Yeah, we're playing Ottawa, and if we win this game, we win the series and move to the semifinals.
Are you able to stay here and watch the game at the same time?
And I'd be too distracted.
Damn. Well, no, I want you to watch the game. Give me updates of what's going on because I can't watch it or listen to it. With you, I'd get updates.
Or how about this?
Because I think if you did that, maybe after you, if he's not at work, Darren would come in here because he's a Maple Leaf fan. You're an Oiler fan, right?
Maple Leafs.
You're a Maple Leaf? I thought you were an Oiler fan.
I like you Oilers too, but I'm mainly a Leaf fan.
Who are they playing in the first round?
What's that?
This is the first round, right?
Yeah, the quarterfinals.
Yeah, who are they playing?
Ottawa.
Oh, the Senators.
Yeah. And the Maple Leafs are in the lead 3-0, and if they win this game, they move on to the semifinals.
Yeah, I know Darren wants to finally bring his wife to a Maple Leaf game. She's never seen it.
I sent you a link on the YouTube side to the NHL website because they'll show you the scores of the games.
Oh, they won't broadcast it live though, right?
I'm sure you could listen to it on radio.
Yeah, for us, it's we can only listen to it. That's why if it was on the radio, that'd be perfect, But
I'm sure there's radio coverage. I'll send you a link to a Toronto station.
The free internet, and you can listen to it
through the internet.
Yeah, cool. That'll work. Darren Pang going to be commentating, or he only waits till the Stanley Cup round?
He doesn't even broadcast hockey anymore.
Really? He was like the voice of the NHL. Well, one of them anyway.
Yeah, but ESPN and TNT bought out the rights from NBC. He was for NBC.
Oh, I didn't know that. But me, shit. That's what my dream job was. I wanted to commentate. Like color commentary.
Okay. I'm sending you a link through the YouTube side.
I don't understand.
I'm not sending it through StreamYard because you can't click it on StreamYard. I'll
send it through Messenger. You still got me on Messenger, right? It'd be better to send me through Messenger.
Okay.
Who else is in the playoffs?
Are you? It's Dallas playing against Colorado.
Okay.
LA versus Edmonton.
Well, Edmonton should win that.
Edmonton not doing so good. They're 2 games behind. What's your name? Like on Messenger?
Sean Patrick.
Sean Patrick? Okay.
Yeah. We've spoken on Messenger before. Thought you'd still have me on there. You still got Share Pencil Artist, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, a lot of that's local. And, if I'm in the city, I'd get it over my regular radio, yes. But the only way to get to listen in on the games is if I had Sirius XM radio, but I haven't purchased a subscription on it. Shit, I haven't done that in about four years. Tweedledee, doodledee. But that's how I was able to get all the games. MLB, NFL, NHL, right there on Sirius XM. Well, it's like, what game do you want to listen to?
Right.
But that's a tough gig to get into, being a sports announcer. That's the only reason why I got a broadcasting degree. Plus, I got the voice for it. Everybody kept saying it. And I'm like, well, what the hell? So I pursued it. I mean, there were some times I'd taken it back listening to the recordings when I was doing the public address for the Cyclones. I'm like, that doesn't sound like me.
I'm sorry, I don't see you anywhere on Facebook.
On the Messenger?
Oh, I see you now. I see you now. Okay.
Yeah, and like radio stations have websites now. You can listen to that station, even regardless of wherever the hell you are, as long as you got an internet signal.
Okay, check your Messenger.
Oh, nothing. Ah, shit. Yeah, I didn't get it. Sorry, guys. I have to turn my camera up, plug my phone in. I'm at 7%, or my phone's going to die on me. Shit, man. Yeah, damn it. I was kind of hoping I could have got a bunch of people in here and had a good conversation.
But yeah, check your Messenger, see if you got it.
No, I would have. I would have got the notification. I didn't get it.
It might be delayed.
Maybe. Here in a couple of miles, I'm going to cross over into Central Time Zone. I was in Mountain Time Zone for like 3 days. But I've been asking them, I'm like, am I ever going to make it out to Salina, California and get that load that goes up to North Calgary? I remember I was getting that, in 1 month. I went up, I did that load twice in 1 month. And I was like, shit, that was like 4 or 5 years ago. Now that I got friends in Alberta, hey, I'm here. How far is it a drive from Edmonton to Calgary? A couple hours?
I live in Grand Prairie.
Oh, I thought you lived close to Edmonton.
I do live close to Edmonton, northwest of Edmonton.
But how far is it to drive to Calgary, though? There's like an hour or two drive, maybe?
From Calgary to Edmonton?
Yeah.
About a 6-hour drive.
Jesus, that far? I didn't think it was going to be that far.
Alberta's a big province.
Yeah, but from the I take I-15 to Sweetgrass and get into Alberta. From the border to Calgary is like a 6-hour drive. And I like Calgary. Calgary's nice. when I was there, I was like, where does the Hart family live?
Hey, Bret Hart still lives in Calgary.
I thought all of them do.
Natalia lives in Florida.
Huh. But she's married, though.
Yeah, to a Canadian, but they live in Florida because it's closer to her work.
Because I remember during the, I think it was the first lady, yeah, it was the first ladies Royal Rumble. They cleared the ring, and it was her and an old friend of hers in wrestling, and she turned on her and threw her out of the ring. And I was like, yeah, that was just like the Hitman, like her dad. They hugged each other and they stepped back, uppercut the Dazer, and then threw over the top rope. Like she's just like her dad.
I sent the link to you through Messenger and the YouTube side. Check the YouTube side.
I don't know the YouTube side.
Well, you're on YouTube. Your live comes on YouTube. I click that and I click the StreamYard link that you posted on YouTube. I mean, on
Damn.
your stream. Like, I put it on the chat thing on your stream. But I can't do it on StreamYard because links don't go on StreamYard.
At the end of the live stream, can you post it in comments? Because that's not StreamYard, that's YouTube.
Yeah, but I'm saying on the YouTube side of what I'm streaming with you right now, I put the link for the radio station on the general chat on the YouTube side.
Yeah, see, I didn't know there was another chat or something like that. What time is it?
It's
Jesus.
4:44.
Four, 5. Yeah, Darren's going to start in a few hours.
I'm just switching over from video game to TV so I could watch the game.
According to my phone, I'm still in Mountain Time.
Yeah, it's 4:45 right now.
Yeah.
Too bad you don't got a TV in your truck.
Well, I watch TV on my laptop.
Well, that's cool.
Got Netflix. I got my external. Made a backup of my external since I got it brand new. They were able to recover everything off the old one. So I made a backup. And it was a good thing I made a backup. For some reason, the one that came back after I made a copy of it, it won't work. It won't connect. And I don't know what's wrong with it. My backup did. So I got to buy another 10 terabyte external and make another backup.
Yeah.
Because I got a lot of shit. I showed it to you, didn't I? Everything I got on an external hard drive.
I think so.
All the TV shows and movies. And when they had to put it in a special room, take the spools out to put it on another external. And they saw what I had on there. They said, "You don't mind if we?" I'm like, "Take whatever you want. Copy whatever you want." He said, "Yeah, a bunch of guys purchased an external hard drive and wanted to copy almost everything you had." I'm like, "Yeah, go ahead." They were amazed. We never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
I said, every DVD that I ever got, TV show, whatever, I put it on my external hard drive and got rid of the discs. Because my childhood friend Danny taught me about thumb drives and externals. He said, you don't need to carry all these damn discs all over. Because I had a cabinet full of DVDs. He goes, look, you just freed up all that space now. I'm like, oh, hell yeah. Just rip it to the damn hard drive and give the discs away or trade them with somebody that's something you don't have.
Right.
You're wearing the old jersey.
No, this is a reverse retro.
Yeah. Well, that's what I meant. Retro. It's designed like back in the, 50s? It looked like that?
No. A reverse retro. They basically came up with a line of retro inspired jerseys.
Yeah. I know that sometimes they'll have a retro night and they'll copy the jersey from, 50, 60 years ago that they don't wear anymore. Whoever came up with the third jersey idea was brilliant. Those were cool looking jerseys, but they don't use them anymore. Like I had the Penguins third jersey, that was cool. And the Rangers third jersey, they had the Statue of Liberty head on it, that was cool. And the Washington Capitals. Who do you have on that one?
This is Toronto.
No, what number and name?
Doug Gilmour.
Oh, okay.
I'll
Should I get
also the Wendell Clark one.
I know you had somebody on it. I just couldn't tell who it was.
Yeah, it's Doug Gilmour.
Not Happy Gilmore.
Fuck off.
Hey, he was a good hockey player. He's the only one that tried to stab somebody with a skate.
And he fought Bob Barker.
Twice. They did this. Him and Bob do a charity for autism, and in front of the crowd, they had a crowd on the screen. They filmed themselves doing a second fight. You can find it on YouTube. It's great. Bob is in the hospital, and they were talking about, and Bob goes, if I had to toss your salad to be in another one, I'd have done it.
Sure enough, every playoffs, he was there for us. So
Yeah, we play Ottawa. We're playing in Ottawa tonight.
A lot of W's in that.
Yeah, they always look like they had a cool jersey. But if you Googled that on YouTube here, Bob Barker and Adam Sandler second fight, you'll see it. It's on YouTube.
They haven't scored. They don't have goals.
Yeah.
I don't like that. I like it. It's different.
I've seen it.
They need something to believe in. Get me one. Something to build on. A little change in the lineup happens all the time.
Does that mean that they can get Stutzla out against the third line for Toronto?
Yeah, I'm going to take off. I'm going to be distracted.
The line can run against Matthews.
Oh, okay. Thanks for coming, Gordon.
Yeah, you have a good one.
Yeah, come to Darren's tonight.
For Ruby, it's all about rhythm.
See y'all later. I appreciate y'all coming. You don't know how my live streams are going to go. I was hoping to be informative, but didn't go that way, but we just went to it. And I'm sorry I don't get to address everybody in the chat. Y'all have a good one. Bye-bye.